Welcome back to Morning Drive. In golf, like in life, being different can have cruel consequences, feeling belittled, ridiculed, or excluded. For 19-year-old John Scott Senz, a recent graduate of the First Tee of Contra Costa in California, being different gave him the opportunity to prove everyone wrong.
I always liked it when we would go play against teams that had not seen him play. So he'd always be in the first group. He has a little bit of a gait as he walks up. Everybody would be watching him. And then they would see this big baseball right-hand grip. Immediately you can just see the people like, oh great, this is gonna be a long day. And then the first drive he hits, boom. Right down the middle, 240 yards out, and you can just see the look on their face like, whoa, I didn't see that coming at all.
It was pretty early on. We used to take baths. I was holding him in the bathtub, and there was something wrong with his left arm. It started to concern me.
I knew that he should be rolling over. He should hold his head up. He should be able to sit up by himself. He couldn't do any of that.
So we got him checked out, and sure enough, he had cerebral palsy.
What does it mean? What does it mean for him? What does it mean for us? What is this poor child going to be able to do?
I'm optimistic. I don't think I ever lowered my expectations. I made sure John Scott was involved in sports at an early age. And I think playing sports really helped him in terms of coming along physically.
He was about 3 years old, and this nice older golf pro takes a look at him and says, well, I think we might have a couple of clubs his size. And he pulls out those clubs and gets a bucket of balls and takes John Scott out to the driving range, and John Scott is going whiff, whiff, whack. And there was no turning back after that. He just loved hitting that ball.
I remember taking a group of kids down the fairway. At the time, John Scott couldn't walk, but he would ride in the golf cart with me. And I remember the other little kids at the time saying, that's not fair, he gets to ride in a cart. You could see that he felt different.
John Scott has left hemispheric cerebral palsy, and it means that his left side is wired differently from his right side.
He had 2 reconstructive surgeries on his left leg.
A surgery on his right foot as well. He had his hamstrings lengthened.
He had tendon transfer surgeries.
They did some surgery to give him the ability to close his hand, so his thumb would be stuck like that, except that it's been frozen out here.
He has comprehension problems, visual problems.
He also did not develop stereoscopic vision, so incredibly, he doesn't have normal depth perception. His hearing is also impacted. He never complained, he never cried, he never talked about pain.
Don't feel any sympathy. I just taught myself to just not think of the bad things. Just think of good things.
Having to deal with the left hemispheric cerebral palsy is, we just had to say, okay, he has it. What are we going to do? Well, he's basically swinging with one hand. His other hand is just holding onto the club as a guide. The other thing too is his left leg's a little bit shorter, and because the way he has to grip it with his right arm, he has to aim his upper body left. Instead of like everybody else, oh, we got to get his hip square, knee square, shoulder square. We can't do that with him. It's not going to work. It's not going to look like Adam Scott. It's going to look like John Scott.
I think particularly when he was little, kids were frightened of him. He looks different. He walked quite a bit different. They just didn't know what to make of him. For that reason, they were wary of him.
Definitely with teammates, you saw that the first impression wasn't always the nicest. The first impression was maybe, whoa, like, he's on their team, or whoa, like, this should be an easy win. And funny thing was, he was usually their best player on their team. It was always pretty surprising when they came in after the day was finished and he had shot a 43 and they were shooting 45, and they're like, okay, like, this kid's legit, huh?
Most of the time I ignored them. Sometimes I actually just said, let's go see who's better.
I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just like everybody else. And I'm gonna go play golf and I'm gonna do the very best I can. And I'm gonna prove to you that there's no disability. It's just, this is how I do it.
Although we see it as he's at a disadvantage, golf is something where he felt like he actually had a level playing field.
Senior year, I think he got 3rd place in points, and that was his best year by far. It was like a moment of like real respect from just, he's playing with a handicap and keeping up versus he's playing with a handicap and he's beating people, a lot of people.
He's been first team all league for 4 years. He's qualified for a North Coast Section Championship. For a kid that was never supposed to get out of a wheelchair,
I think John Scott's story is a classic story of someone who was dealt a bad break and has just not let it stop him.
Senz's parents believe he experienced a form of bullying, but they said, quote, he just kept going. October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and for more information, visit pacer.org/bullying. Much more ahead on this Wednesday. Morning Drive is back right after this.